Intelligence is moving fast, and as we've just heard, the United Nations is stepping up efforts to guide how it can be governed globally. But alongside the opportunities, there are some very serious dangers, especially for children. UNICEF is warning about a sharp rise in AI-generated sexualized images of minors, often created using ordinary photos taken from social media. The agency says that so-called deepfakes abuse is as real abuse, the real psychological harm that comes with it. Well, to help us understand the scale of this threat and what can be done to protect children, we're now joined by Makiba Yamano, who's the Chief of Child Protection at UNICEF South Africa. Makiba, thanks very much indeed for joining us and welcome to the program.
Thank you so much, Peter, for inviting us.
So we've just heard about new global efforts at the United Nations to put guardrails around artificial intelligence. And I wonder, from a child protection perspective, how urgent is the risk that you're seeing from AI-generated sexualized images of children?
United Nations Children's Fund is increasingly alarmed by the reports of the rapid rise in the volume of AI-generated sexualized images that are circulating. It's extremely serious now. Based on our own study across 11 countries, an estimated 1.2 million children said their images were turned into sexual deepfakes in just 1 year. We also know that AI-generated sexual abuse materials often disproportionately targeting girls. In some countries, that's one child in every classroom, translated into one in every 25 children. This is not about future risk. This is actually happening now, currently at scale. Children themselves responded to us saying they are worried. In some countries, up to 2/3 of the children say they fear AI could be used to create fake sexual images of their own.
So tell us a little bit more about how these deepfakes are created and why is the harm real even when the images are fake?
Sure. So the AI-generated sexual abuse involves using artificial intelligence to create or manipulate sexualized images or videos of children. This could include deepfakes or so-called nudification tools that has been on the news as well. Even if the image itself is fake, the harm is real to children. It can violate children's dignity, cause shame and then fear, and then can follow them for years because internet never forgets. And we must be very clear. Sexualized image of children generated or manipulated using AI tool is real child sexual abuse material. That's why we need to stand strong to say deepfake abuse is real abuse for children. It can normalize the sexualization of the children, fuel the demand for such images, and it makes it even harder to identify and protect the real victims who are children who can be horrored by these sexual images.
How big is the problem at the moment? Do you have any estimates of how many children have been abused in this way already?
Yes. So when we studied across 11 countries, there is an estimated 1.2 million children across these countries who have been already affected. As I said, in some countries, it can be 1 in every 25 children in their country. And that's not a small number. And then as earlier, the United Nations Secretary General was saying that AI is growing in a light speed, and we really need to take action to catch up with it. Otherwise, they will then control.
Do we have any signs in Africa that our children are also being caught up in this and are being affected by this kind of abuse?
Yes, definitely. So among 11 countries we have studies, some include African countries as well. United Nations Children's Fund has been following up on the online child safety issues closely and then producing the report called Disrupting Harm Report. And then it includes some African countries that has been studied as well.
I think earlier you might have given us a clue to my next question. If a child discovers that their face has been used in this kind of content, what kind of typical emotions and psychological impacts are you seeing?
Yes. Even if people say, oh, it is only a fake image, it's not the real children who is affected, many children whose material was used then need to face the full weight of consequences. It can include the feeling of shame, stigma, or moral judgment by the peers or even the adults surrounding them, social isolation, including long-term emotional harm from the fear that images might never disappear from the internet. Some are blackmailed or threatened using these images that are not real, and then they are fake. But it can actually harm their real feelings and then their real social relationships. The harm can affect their school friendships, mental health long after the image has been circulated. So what's also especially damaging is perhaps it's not caused by their own mistakes. The children who are affected can be violated without ever sending a photo to somebody or even knowing what has happened behind the scene.
Are children and teenagers becoming more and more aware of this kind of abuse? And if that's the case, are they starting to become concerned about being online?
I think it's the double-edged sword because children also find many opportunities through online, especially for the children living in the disadvantaged area, like rural area, that they are accessing opportunities that they never had before. Of course, children themselves are aware, but at the same time, we should not leave this responsibility to children or parents alone. So United Nations Children's Fund is also calling for governments and then also tech companies who are providing these platforms to take urgent action to regulate these deep fake images that are causing harms for children.
Can it be regulated? I wonder, is it the platform providers that need to be dealt with, because they're certainly allowing those tools, and that AI should be able to be programmed not to be able to assist.
Definitely. So we see that the gaps are on both sides. As we were saying that AI is growing at the right speed. So many of the existing laws or regulations that were created for the internet regulation was before the AI. So it doesn't really clearly cover the AI generated abuse. At the same time, AI tools and platforms are often released without adequate child safety safeguards. So now the children are the ones who are paying the price for these systems that were designed for their dignity and their rights in mind. So what we call for is that the government must update laws so that AI-generated sexual images of children can be clearly defined as illegal. And tech companies must also design products with safety built in from the beginning and stop this content from being created or shared. Of course, we all as parents, all the social service providers and educators need to support to talk to children and respond safely and provide help without blaming children who has been caught in this rapid, fast-paced development and then their own safety.
For maybe parents, teachers, and caregivers that might be listening and watching this interview this morning, what practical steps can they take immediately to help reduce this risk to our children?
I think first is that parents, caregivers, and schools need to be aware that this AI-generated sexual abuse of children is real. It's not coming in future. It's already happening at scale right now, including some African countries. So it needs to be definitely information sharing with parents and caregivers, and then also in schools. And then parents and caregivers can also share these risks about AI-generated images with their own children at home as well. Make it as a habit as you give a gadget to children for the gift or the reward to the good exam result, then make it a habit to also talk about the opportunities and then the risks the children need to be aware of. And then I think catching and then monitoring their online activities every now and then, so that you are able to notice that if there is something wrong happening in their online life as well as their physical life as well. But as I said earlier, we should not leave parents, caregivers, and children to deal with this issue alone. So we really need to also have everyone's hands together, particularly the government to regulate, but also tech companies to make sure there is a safety by design.
Yeah, I mean, this is a tough question, but is there hope that we can win this, that we can find ways to protect our children?
I think we should. I think it's not about our willingness. It's not about if we have the ability or time. I think we should, because otherwise our children who are still young and they may not know how to protect themselves can be trapped in this danger. And then we as adults, and then those who are providing these platforms, and then the government who is in a position to regulate, we need to urgently put our acts together. Otherwise, while we are also enjoying the benefit of AI, there is growing risks and then harms we need to protect our children from.
Makiba, we're going to have to leave it there, but thank you very, very much indeed for illuminating and enlightening us on this. And I think some of us didn't even know it was going on. And so we probably weren't looking out for these signs and the clues. But thank you so much indeed for giving us time to have this important conversation.
Thank you so much, Peter, for inviting me once again.
So that's Makiba Yamano, who's Chief of Child Protection at UNICEF South Africa, speaking to us to explain the scale of this problem that we're seeing now. Children being used in deep fakes. And she says in some of the research that she's done, more than 1 million children have seen their images, usually innocent pictures from social media, being taken by people and using AI to sexualize these poor children. And clearly, listening to that conversation, and I suppose just you would know the consequences for the children, psychologically, emotionally, and physically sometimes enormous. So something for us all to pay attention to, that every innocent picture may be abused. It's 8:30. It's time